Please video like and subscribe this channel. The outpost was never meant to be comfortable. Outpost K-17 sat alone on the ice moon Virex, a forgotten dot of metal and polymer clinging to survival at the edge of human-controlled space. Its corridors hummed with aging generators, its walls groaned when the winds rose, and its heating system worked just well enough to keep its single occupant alive. That occupant was me. I'd taken the contract because no one else wanted it. 6 months of monitoring atmospheric data, recalibrating sensor arrays, and sending weekly reports that no one ever replied to. Isolation pay was generous, and after a decade of hauling cargo through pirate-infested routes, silence sounded like a gift. Most nights, the only sound was the wind scraping ice against the hull like fingernails. The night she arrived, the temperature dropped 12 degrees in under an hour. I noticed because the heater stuttered just once, a brief hitch in its rhythm before resuming its tired hum. I was halfway through rehydrated soup, boots kicked up on the console, when the proximity alarm chirped. I frowned. Nothing ever came near K-17. I pulled up the exterior feed. At first, I saw nothing but white, then movement. Something was crawling across the ice. I leaned closer, heart picking up speed. The figure was small, wrapped in torn fabric, dragging itself forward with desperate determination. Frost coated its limbs. One arm moved strangely, as if injured. "Damn it," I muttered, already standing. Protocol said to observe. Protocol also said Virex had no indigenous life and no scheduled traffic. Whatever or whoever was out there didn't have long. I sealed my jacket, grabbed a thermal blanket, and cycled the airlock. The cold hit like a physical blow. Even through insulated boots, it burned. The wind nearly knocked me off my feet as I ran toward the figure, boots crunching on ice. Up close, I saw she wasn't human. Her skin was pale silver blue, faintly luminescent beneath layers of frost. Dark hair clung to her face in frozen strands. Her eyes, when they fluttered open, were a deep, reflective violet. She looked at me and tried to speak. Nothing came out. I dropped to my knees beside her, wrapping the thermal blanket around her trembling body. She was shockingly light. Her breathing was shallow, uneven. "You're okay," I said, unsure if she understood the words. "I've got you." Her fingers twitched, clutching weakly at my sleeve. The rest was a blur of effort and adrenaline hauling her inside, slamming the airlock shut, cranking the heaters to emergency output. I laid her on the only bed in the outpost, stripped off her frozen outer layers, and covered her with every blanket I owned. Her skin was ice cold. I checked her vitals with my med scanner. Non-human physiology, but the signs were clear enough. Severe hypothermia, dehydration, trauma to her left side. "Stay with me," I murmured, more for myself than her. She shivered violently, lips parting as a faint sound escaped her throat. "Cold." I moved to grab another blanket. And she grabbed me. Her hand, weak but insistent, caught my wrist. Her eyes opened just enough to focus on my face. "I'm freezing," she whispered, voice thin and raw. "Don't push me away." I froze. The scanner beeped, highlighting the obvious. Her body temperature was still dropping. External heat wasn't enough. Her species, whatever she was, radiated warmth differently. Prolonged contact might be the only thing keeping her alive. I swallowed hard. "Okay," I said quietly. "I won't." I lay down beside her, careful and stiff at first, letting her curl instinctively against my chest. She pressed close, seeking warmth, her breathing uneven but slowly beginning to stabilize. I stared at the ceiling, listening to the wind scream outside, wondering how the hell my quiet contract had turned into this. She slept for nearly 18 hours. I didn't. Every time she shifted, I woke, afraid she'd stopped breathing. Her body remained cold for far too long, But gradually, so gradually I almost missed it, warmth returned. When she finally stirred, it was gentle. Her fingers flexed against my sleeve. Her eyes opened fully this time, sharp despite exhaustion. We stared at each other. "You're awake," I said softly. She nodded, then winced, a hand moving instinctively to her injured side. I saw faint bruising beneath her skin, patterns unfamiliar and delicate. "You didn't leave," she said slowly, her accent lilting, unfamiliar but clear. "No," I said. "You asked me not to." Something like relief crossed her face. "My name is Salith," she said. "Of the Thrixian free clans." "I'm Noah," I replied. "Human. Apparently your emergency rescue service." That earned the faintest smile. Over the next few days, I learned her story in pieces. Her ship had been part of a small Thrixian convoy fleeing disputed territory. Pirates, human, she noted carefully, as if afraid I'd take offense, had ambushed them. Her escape pod malfunctioned, crashing on Vyrex's far side. She'd walked for days, following the weak energy signature of the outpost. "You were alone," she said one night, seated at the small table, hands wrapped around a heated cup. "Why?" I shrugged. "Someone has to watch the nothing places." She studied me with those reflective eyes. "In my culture, isolation is considered a punishment." I smiled thinly. "In mine, it's sometimes a choice." As she healed, the outpost felt different. Quieter, somehow, but warmer, not just physically. She moved with careful grace, exploring the small space as if it were something precious. She helped where she could, learned my routines, asked endless questions about humans and Earth and why we built things meant to be temporary. One night, the heater failed completely. I woke to alarms blaring and breath fogging in the air. The temperature dropped fast, Vyrex wasted no time reminding us where we were. I swore, throwing on boots, but Salith was already shivering, her skin paling. "The backup won't last," I said, scanning the readouts. "We'll lose heat for hours." She looked at the bed. Then at me. Understanding passed between us without words. Later, wrapped together beneath every blanket we owned, she pressed close again, trembling. "I do not mean to intrude," she said quietly. "But if I sleep alone." "I know," I said. "You're not intruding." She hesitated, then rested her head against my chest. Her warmth seeped into me slowly, unfamiliar but grounding. "On my world," she said, voice muffled, "sharing warmth is an act of trust." I swallowed. Then, "Thank you for trusting me." She was quiet for a long moment. "I do," she said simply. The middle weeks passed in a strange, gentle rhythm. We fixed what we could. We shared meals and stories. She told me about the Thrixian clans, about their wandering fleets and the songs they used to map the stars. I told her about Earth winters and crowded cities and how lonely space could be even when surrounded by people. Sometimes, without thinking, she'd reach for my hand when the wind howled. Sometimes I'd wake to find her already pressed against me, seeking warmth even when the heaters worked. Nothing was said. Nothing needed to be. Then the transmission arrived. A Thrixian recovery ship had picked up Salith's beacon at last. They would arrive in 3 days. She stared at the message for a long time. "You'll go with them," I said. It wasn't a question. "Yes," she said softly. "They are my people." "Of course." The silence that followed felt heavier than the cold ever had. On her last night at the outpost, the storm returned, one final, violent farewell from Vyrex. Power flickered. The walls groaned. Salith stood by the viewport, watching the white chaos. "I was afraid," she said quietly. "When I crawled into your bed, I feared you would push me away. That you would see me as other." I moved beside her. I saw someone who needed help. She turned to me. "And now?" I met her gaze. Now I see someone I don't want to lose. Her breath caught. Slowly, carefully, she rested her forehead against mine, a Thrixian gesture of closeness, she'd once explained. You found me when I was freezing, she whispered. I will remember that for all my journeys. The recovery ship came at dawn. Salith stood at the airlock, wrapped in a new cloak, healed but reluctant. She hesitated, then stepped forward and embraced me fully this time, without trembling. If you ever walk the stars without warmth, she said, seek the Thrixian clans. I smiled, throat tight. I just might. She left. The outpost returned to silence. But it felt different now, less empty, less cruel. And sometimes, when the wind howled and the temperature dropped, I swore I could still feel her warmth beside me. A reminder that even in the coldest places, connection could survive.